Chapter 2. The Obsidian Throne. The air within the ravaged husk of the 100th World's former heart did not merely howl. It throbbed, a living, malignant pulse that coursed through every shattered boulevard, every scorched foundation stone. It pressed on lungs like unseen hands, thick with the taste of ozone, burning metal, and ruin. It hummed low, like the grinding of a colossal, hidden machine, relentless, oppressive, wrong. This was no longer a city. This was the crucible of conquest, the blackened engine room of apocalypse. Where once rose towers of gleaming brass and latticed crystal, testaments to civilization's defiant ingenuity, now stood the Citadel of Xanthire, a festering blight atop the ruins. It loomed like a parasite grown fat on a world's last breath. Built from twisted obsidian and fossilized bone, the structure seemed less constructed than summoned, as though the land itself had vomited it forth in surrender. Its base was anchored in the remains of the Grand Convergence Station, once the pride of the steampunk empire, where airships docked alongside locomotives beneath vaults of polished copper and stained glass. Now, the architecture groaned under the weight of its own corruption. What had once been vaulted halls and glasswork domes had been reworked into monstrous maws, spewing green-tinged smoke and sulfuric steam into a sky perpetually bruised with twilight. The station's grand archways gaped like devouring mouths, and the smoke that poured from within stank of both machinery and murder. The Citadel itself defied logic. Its spires twisted at impossible angles, clawing upward like the fingers of a skeletal god. Its surfaces crawled with veins of dark energy, glowing in rhythmic pulses that mimicked the beat of a diseased heart. Tendrils of black metal, veined with ichor, extended from the foundations like roots, worming their way through the ground, feeding upon the bones of the city it had subsumed. Some of the girders embedded within the structure still bore the brass sigils of the old world, now defaced, mocked by the grotesque demon runes etched over them in seething, molten lines. Where once the observatory had crowned the city, a marvel of telescopic vision and arcane stargazing, now sat the throne chamber of Prince Xanthire. The chamber was a vast cathedral of darkness, carved from the same crystalline obsidian that formed the rest of the Citadel. It glistened like wet stone under an oily sheen of demon light. The floor was a single sheet of polished bone, countless skulls fused together, the hollow sockets staring upward in eternal, silent agony. Frescoes of conquest had been scorched into the walls, visions of 99 worlds falling beneath Xanthire's dominion, each rendered in grotesque detail with blood, ash, and screaming souls. At the chamber's center rose a dais of shattered planetary fragments, jagged chunks of stone, molten core, and steel tectonics stolen from defeated worlds. Upon it sat the throne of conquest, a monstrous seat forged from the spine of some long-dead, titanic beast. Its ribcage formed the backrest, its talons curled around the armrests, and its skull, crowned with jagged horns, rested at the prince's feet, mouth frozen in a howl of eternal servitude. And on that throne, unmoving, sat Xanthire, prince of the infinite legions, heir to the demon king, architect of the end. He was a figure of dark majesty, his form carved with the precision of a blade and the arrogance of a god. His flesh was smooth, black as the void between stars, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. His armor, if it could be called that, was not worn, but grown, an exoskeletal mantle of darkness itself, engraved with sigils that slithered and whispered in forgotten tongues. Runes of power crawled across his chestplate like silver spiders, never still. A cloak of living shadow unfurled behind him, woven from the desolation of conquered worlds, its edges dissolving into mist as it trailed behind his throne like a wake of despair. But it was his eyes that commanded the room, twin pools of molten gold, without pupil or sclera, radiant with intelligence that burned and devoured in equal measure. They did not blink. They did not soften. They were sons of judgment, patient and cruel. His voice, when it came, was soft, too soft for the vastness of the throne hall. And yet, it carried with unnatural force, echoing in the mind like a whisper inside the soul. 99. he murmured. The sound was silk wrapped around razors. 99 worlds have fallen. 99 empires ground beneath our tread. 99 suns have dimmed in tribute to the king. A pause. The silence stretched taut. This one, this 100th world, will be the sweetest. His fingers flexed upon the throne's talons, caressing the ancient bone as if remembering a melody. Their resistance sharpens the taste of their extinction. Before him, arranged in a broad semicircle upon the obsidian floor, knelt 9 figures, each one a manifestation of nightmare, each bearing the mark of a general. These were the 9, the demon generals of Xanthire's host, commanders of legion after legion, each a reflection of his dark will, each representing a different facet of ruin. At the center of their number loomed Lord Vezuth, the first and the strongest, a living juggernaut clad in jagged plates of melted alloy, each piece scavenged from the war machines of fallen worlds and fused to his own flesh. Chains wrapped around his arms like gauntlets, the ends dragging behind him and gouging grooves into the floor. His head was bare, a monstrous dome of iron-scarred bone with a jaw like a furnace, and eyes like burning coals. Beside him, coiled in sinuous grace, was Sheekra, the second general. Her body was serpentine from the waist down, scaled in iridescent hues that shimmered with unnatural beauty. Her upper torso resembled a woman's, but her movements betrayed a predatory patience. Twin fangs glistened over her lips, and her eyes were emerald slits that flicked toward everything and everyone with cold calculation. Her voice, when it came, would be silk and poison. Her tail, tipped with a serrated stinger, twitched as if in anticipation. Towering behind them stood Magurash, the third, a grotesque amalgam of brute force and twisted arcana. His body was a centaurian abomination, the lower half that of a massive beast, hooved and armored in demonic plating. The upper half humanoid in shape but grotesquely overmuscled, his hide tattooed with ritual scars that glowed faintly with corrupt energy. His mouth bore too many teeth. His arms ended in clawed gauntlets capable of rending stone like parchment. He was the forge master of corruption, the breeder of horrors, the sculptor of living abominations. And next stood Azamar, the fourth general, and perhaps the most unervingly silent. He was a knight cast in shadow, tall, statuesque, encased in rune-etched armor darker than moonless midnight. A massive sword hung across his back, a relic of such dread presence that the air around it seemed to hum. A spiked shield rested at his side, pulsing with warding glyphs that shifted with each breath. His helmet was horned and featureless, save for a single slit of crimson light. No one had ever seen the face beneath it. Azamar needed no boasts, no roars. He spoke with silence and killed with precision. When he moved, he did so like a storm building in still air. Xanthire's gaze passed over them slowly, lingering on each in turn, and though none dared meet his eyes, a thrill of anticipation, of competition, rippled through the ranks. He smiled, just slightly, the kind of smile statues wear in temples to forgotten gods. But the circle was not yet complete. At the edge of the gathering shadows stood Maraxan, fifth of the 9. His form shifted even as one gazed upon him, a kaleidoscope of illusions and half-glimpsed horrors. One moment, he appeared as a lithe, androgynous figure robed in smoke and crimson silk. The next, a towering mass of tendrils and fractured masks. His presence felt like a dream one couldn't wake from, a seduction tinged with revulsion, a whispered temptation promising forbidden truths. His voice, when he chose to speak, would be neither male nor female, but something in between, something wrong. The others gave him distance. One could never be certain which of his faces was watching, or whether it was a face at all. To his right crouched Tarollus, sixth among them, a spindly creature of chitin and wire, his movements as precise as a spider's, his limbs bent at unnatural angles, and his many glowing eyes blinked out of sync, constantly calculating, assessing. His carapace shimmered with deep green lacquer, and from his back extended a long recurved bow, crafted from petrified demon bone. Barbed projectiles hung in a satchel at his hip, their fletching made of scorched feathers from worlds long extinct. Tarollus was a master of trajectory and death from afar. A whisper on the wind followed by blood. Then came Gorzan the seventh, a brute of ruin incarnate. Massive, broad as a siege tower, he was less a warrior than a walking calamity. His hide was thick and cracked like dried lava, glowing faintly between the fractures as if magma boiled beneath. His horns curled forward like a battering ram, and his only weapon was a club the size of a small tree, studded with blades and rusted bolts. He snorted steam as he breathed, and his guttural growls carried the weight of entire cities crushed underfoot. Subtlety was not his gift, nor did he care for it. Next to him loomed Morbrak, eighth of the nine, and the most visibly scarred. His armor, if it could be called that, was a patchwork of charred crimson plates, pitted and blackened by ancient flame. His elongated arms hung like pendulums tipped with claws long enough to carve through iron. His face was a twisted snarl of molten fury, burned, cracked, eternally angry. Where he walked, the temperature rose. The air itself seemed to blister around him. A destroyer without mercy, Morbrak was more than just another general. He was Dreyfuss's personal nightmare made flesh. The one who had stolen his family. The one whose name still echoed through Dreyfuss's dreams like a wound that wouldn't close. And finally, apart from the others, standing in silence like the shadow of death itself, Kaira the ninth. She was beautiful once, or so the legends whispered. Whatever she had been, that face was long gone, now replaced by an amalgam of metal, bone, and glistening sinew. Her visage was a mask wrought from pain, half skeletal, half sculpture, with metallic filaments replacing skin, and eyes as black and depthless as the void between stars. Her form was lithe, delicate even, but carried with it an aura of unspeakable menace. She wore silence like a veil. Her steps made no sound, and her presence seemed to draw the warmth from the very air. Kaira was mistress of the spectral host, the ghost demons who could phase through stone, who whispered secrets into the ears of the dying, who drained life with a touch. She was not flame or fury. She was the cold certainty of oblivion. Xanthire regarded her last, his golden eyes narrowing slightly. "The reports trickle in," he murmured, his voice rippling outward like the surface of poisoned water. "More human vermin, clinging to life like mold in the corners of my dominion. They speak of a sanctuary in the mountains." He let the word linger, dripping with disdain, as if it offended him. "Hope," he said softly. "Such a resilient disease." He rose. Even seated, he had exuded dominion. But standing, Xanthire became a pillar of dread majesty. His shadow spilled out across the chamber floor, stretching farther than it should, devouring the firelight, reaching hungrily toward the generals like the tongue of some great beast. "Kaira," he said, voice sharpening like a drawn blade, "your scouts have been sufficient, but not sufficient enough." The spectral general inclined her head, the faintest twitch of motion. The silver filigree woven into her skull caught the baleful light. "A small group of stragglers escaped your perimeter sweep near the old steam conduits," Xanthire continued, now descending the dais, each step resonating like thunder within the bones. "A minor oversight, yes?" Kaira's reply was like wind through a crypt. "Yes, my prince. A rare lapse. I offer no excuse. But you offer insight, I presume," he said, circling behind her. She did not turn. "The scout they encountered was an advanced unit," she said, "designed for stealth and rapid relay. It should have identified the targets and summoned reinforcements. Instead, its signal was severed. A quiet ripple passed through the gathered generals. Not fear, but interest. It vanished," she finished. Morbrak scoffed, voice like boulders grinding together. "Scouts are not infallible. Perhaps it collapsed a building upon itself. These ruins are brittle, like the bones of the weak. Or," said Xanthire, now returning to his throne, "perhaps the weak are not as feeble as we believed." He seated himself once more, fingers steepled. His golden eyes blazed brighter. This resistance, fleeting though it may be, intrigues me. The 100th World has clung to survival longer than expected. Their myths still whisper of salvation, of balance, of hope. He spat the last word like venom. No matter, let it be crushed. The chamber darkened as his power gathered. Let the mountains weep. Let this sanctuary fall into ash. The king does not require submission. He demands despair. The death of this final hope will be our offering to him. His eyes turned once more to Kaira. You will hunt them, he said. You will burn their false refuge. And if there is any among them with the strength to kill one of our own. His lips curled into a smile both terrible and gleaming. I want them alive. The general stirred, each calculating how best to earn his favor, how to crush their rivals while executing his will. Xanthire leaned back into his throne, cloak unfurling around him like a pool of liquefied shadow. This world will break, he whispered, and when it does, the throne of my father shall pass to me. Let no rebellion remain. Let no survivor draw breath. He closed his eyes, and let them beg for the end.